Hi, my name is Yasmin Tarehi, and this is Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness and spirituality. Today's episode is about the power of the breath and cold showers with Laura and Isabelle Hof. Laura and Isabelle are Wim Hof instructors and have been involved with the company Innerfire, which is behind the Wim Hof Method from the beginning. They both have founded the Icewomen Community, which is a nonprofit community that promotes cold water and mature dipping amongst women, which we'll get into in the show. And they are both the daughters of Wim Hof. So I'm incredibly excited to have them on the show today. Welcome, welcome, Laura and Isabelle.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. It's an honor. Thank you.
Wonderful. So can you tell us, why is breath so important?
Yeah, I think breath is so important because the first thing that you do when you come into this life is you have a gasp of breath. And the last thing you do on earth is you have a last breath out. So breath actually equals life. It's the life force. That's really what breathing is. Without breathing, we can't do anything. You can be weeks without food. You can be days without water, but you cannot be a very long time without your breath. So this is something that is very important to us. Now, if we think about why the breath matters, it's very funny because one of the things that's so obvious, breath, because we're doing it the whole time, we don't really see it as something so important, but it's super essential to be breathing in the right way. And what we do actually in the Western society a lot of times is that we actually forgot how to breathe in a very natural way. Breathing equals also your health. So if you're not breathing correctly, you're going to influence your state, and it will create all kinds of different problems for a lot of people if you're not doing it properly. So breath is essential for your well-being and for your health, and I would also say for your mood and your happiness. So that's maybe Isa. You wanna?
No, it's a beautiful summary actually of why the breath is so important for our physiology, our health, our mental and physical health. And maybe one thing that I want to add up, and it's like like we have a system in our body, and it's called the autonomic nervous system, and it's actually our highway of why nutrition, like a lot of things, get into our bodies. And the autonomic nervous system you have like the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. And a sympathetic nervous system is actually the system that gets you activated. So if there is a danger, it helps you mobilize to move from the danger. In the same time, you have as well the parasympathetic system, and it calms your system down. So after a stressful situation, you need the time to restore again. And normally in a very healthy body, you switch from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. So you need action, and then you need the rest, the recuperation. What happens in our society, though, is that we are way too much in the sympathetic system. And we notice it on the amount of breaths people take. It's way too high right now. And actually interesting is through our breath, we can influence those systems. So if you take long, deep breaths, you actually activate the parasympathetic system, the rest and digest. And if you take deep, fast breaths, then you can activate the sympathetic system. So the breath is the remote control of your autonomic nervous system. And it's just the breath that is always available for you to change between systems.
Yeah, it is an autonomic thing that we do, the breath, but it's at the same time something that we have a hand in. We can also control the breath and thereby also control our mood. So if you are very happy, you can see what kind of breath you're taking, very deep and you're excited. If you are very sad, that's you're breathing more from the chest. If you're very stressed, you're breathing more from the throat and from the chest, so very high up. And if you're very relaxed, you tend to breathe much more through your stomach. Now, the moods also gives you sort of a way to breathe. It triggers a type of breathing, but the type of breathing you can also use to create the moods that you want to be in. So that is why the breath, it's a beautiful remote control for the state that you are in. And that's why it's an unbelievable, powerful tool to use to really have a lot of influence on your own state, your mind and your physiology.
So it's, and just to wrap it up, actually you can do exercises for your health, you can eat healthy foods for your health, and you can pay attention to your breath for your health as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ladies. That was a very thorough and thoughtful definition of breath and why it's so important. And I learned a lot, and I feel like I've studied this space. I've also read your father's book, and I'd love to talk a little bit about the Wim Hof Method and maybe just share a little bit about his journey and how he was able to develop this methodology. And we can dive into his philosophy, but also from your perspective and maybe the way that you have made some additions or changes in your own work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, it's like the journey of my father is actually super interesting. So he started in a very conservative, he grew up in a very conservative environment where things like yoga or healthy foods, being vegetarian was way off the track. But he either way did all those things. That was very surprisingly for his environment as well. So this is a type of, my father was always like a type of very progressive and a little bit of an outcast. And so that's a very interesting type, of course, of, it's somebody who explores. So when the first time he entered the cold water was when he was 17. He was walking through the park and he was not feeling very well. So he saw the cold water, and it must be as well, like he read a lot in those times about yogis, about like all these kind of disciplines, which was then a bit of unconventional. And maybe he read as well a little bit about yoga. Not maybe, he read a lot about yoga. So he was seeing the cold water in Beatrix Park while he was like wandering actually and not feeling very well. And at one moment he thought like, hey, let's go. I entered the water. So what he did, he took off his clothes and he just jumped in the water. and the immediate reaction of his body was his breath. He grasped for air. It was like, whoa, this is a shock. And he went out of the water and he felt invigorating, like very energized. And then he thought like, I like this feeling, but I noticed as well that something happened with my breath. And one of the very interesting things about Wim, my father, is that he is always in tune with his body. So, like doing yoga, like the most difficult positions already when he was 17, 18. And from there, actually, he thought like, hey, I have to do something with my breath. I can. He adapted his breath to enter the cold. So instead of the cold overwhelming him, he investigated what he could do with his breath to control actually the forces of the cold water. And from there, he began to experiment and to investigate what he could do with his own body and breath. And yeah, he did this actually many years for himself. He started when he was 17, so that's 30 years, 40 years. So we actually as a family always saw him doing these breathing exercises and going into the cold when it was possible. And people were always like shocked when he saw them. And we were sometimes actually a little bit of ashamed as well when we saw him doing the breathing exercises while my friends were running around. Like it's a bit of, breathing very fast. It looks a bit strange. But yeah, he did it because he felt very energized always with that. And it was actually with the death of our mom that he took this to another level. So he was a bit of lost there emotionally. And because of the death, he found peace in the cold water, because the cold water is a big, strong force. And from there, he even delved further in exploring what these techniques could do for him, for his mental being and for his physical being. So that is his path. And one of the most beautiful things as well of Wim is that Wim never needed a teacher. He never had a teacher. He was an autodidact in that case, exploring what his body was capable of. And that is one of his superpowers, actually, believing in his body and explore and grow from that area.
Yeah, I think Wim has an unbelievable intuitive connection to his body and his mind. And of course, you can read a lot of information in books about how your physiology works, how breathing works, and what kind of steps you should take, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you've done sort of kind of breathing practices and going into the cold and exploring your own physiology, just like a very curious person would do, but that for 30, 40 years, you're becoming very in tune with your own body and mind. And this is really, I think that's very beautiful that you said that, Isa, because I really believe that one of the most important things that Wim has is it's such a strong connection to his body and his mind. So when a doctor talks with him, they can talk very well, but they talk in from a very different perspective, but it clicks very well because Wim has such a depth of knowledge just based on what he feels in his body and where he can situate it, he can explain it, he can in that way talk with a doctor in a very different way, but they will understand each other. And that's such a beautiful thing, because that connection with our body and our mind, I think that we as people in this society, we have become a little bit alienated from it. And that's why I also believe that, when people experience this, going to the cold, doing these breathing techniques, they actually experience also a much more deeper connection with themselves, with their bodies and with their minds. And a lot of time we want to go away from that, but it really brings you back to who are you? Who are you? And that connection just strengthens and strengthens. And I think that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Thank you, ladies. Wow. Yeah, that's really a powerful point. And I love that you brought it back to the question of who are you? I want to actually dive into the process of breath work. I think for, people in the audience, they're going to either be first time learning about breath work, or others who have heard of the method or have heard of Wim Hof and who know the process. I will say that over the last year, that's actually when I really dived into the Wim Hof Method and learned a little bit more, downloaded the app, and started doing it every single morning, especially during the pandemic. And it's really interesting if you Google YouTube Wim Hof and just read the comments. People have really shared that it has saved their life, and has saved their mental health. And it's just such an incredible thing to witness. Before we dive into what actually is the process of breathwork, how does it work? I wanted to also just highlight that your father had achieved a Guinness Book World Record for a couple of different accomplishments. And so I just think that's really fascinating because he's always stretching the limit of what is possible in our reality. So do you,
Absolutely.
yeah, maybe do you know what those accolades are?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, some crazy feats that my father did. And there are 21 official world records, 26 if you count those that are not official. But one of the craziest ones are sitting in a bucket of ice for over 2 hours, completely submerged in ice until his neck naked. Another one running a marathon in freezing temperatures or barefoot in shorts. But my favorite actually is climbing the Mount Everest without any oxygen. And also in his shorts up until the death zone, which is 7,800 meters, which is, to me, it's crazy. Sometimes I'm in a class when we are teaching, and I always pose the question, who climbed the Mount Everest? And then, you might get one person raising their hands, but then you give the second question, and who did it in shorts and without any oxygen? Well, I don't think anybody's going to ever do that again. but
sure
many more records actually after that as well. He also took 63 people, I think, up without any training, actually, up the Mount Kilimanjaro in record time of 3 days. And that was really when doctors were telling him that it was irresponsible, that people were going to die, and that they did not want to participate in that expedition, climbing the Kilimanjaro. But afterwards, he got no comments anymore from the same doctors. So it's very funny. Yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah, and there was as well published study. One is that that was for me was as well like one of the most significant ones, that he showed that others are as well capable of doing these feats that Wim is doing, the crazy feats. He took 26 people, 60 something in total, because he climbed it, of course, several times. That's Wim. He doesn't do it one time. But one time he took 26 people, and all these people had a condition like MS or rheumatic arthritis, even cancer. All these 26 people had it. And normally you have 40 to 60 people who reach the summit within 5 to 7 days, and this time only one person, so 92% of these people reached the summit in only 48 hours.
2 days.
Wow. It was 2 days.
Oh, that was the second one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And what they reported as well, like nobody had acute mountain sickness, because normally you have to stop because of this sickness. You feel unwell, you don't have enough oxygen, and these people had enough oxygen, so they as well measured the amount of oxygen in the blood, and it was 90% or more. And it's only by doing these breathing exercises several times.
It's actually, there is a paper published
that
was actually measuring the effects of this breathing next to a Diamox pill, right? That's how it's called. I think the Diamox pill, what you take when you need to counteract acute mountain sickness. And it seemed that the research showed that the Wim Hof Method breathing actually works better for mountain acute sickness.
Wow.
So that was also quite a revelation.
That is incredible. I am so inspired just listening to this. What a legend.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like Wim is like it's like a Superman, but not in his way. Yeah, really. What he did, a lot of things.
And one of the most admiring things is as well that he just do things against as well the advice of experts, and eventually experts are like, wow, but you can do it. So like normally there is a certain limitation in our minds. And of course, like experts like doctors, they need to give a negative advice, like, hey, if you do this, then this is a danger. But by doing those things, you as well, sometimes you don't reach your potential. And next to that, he, of course, is very convinced in what his techniques can do. And the breathing can do a lot. And it's a superpower. That's how you can see it.
Absolutely. But if you are in the vicinity of Wim, you know that if he has something in his mind, you will not get him off it. He will really, he is very determined, and he will go after it no matter what. Nobody can get him off track then. It's unbelievable. He's really set in his ways in that way. But that is one of the most beautiful things that Wim has. He has a very powerful mindset. Once he thinks, I'm going to do it, there's no question about it anymore. It's done already.
Wow. I mean, yeah, climbing Mount Everest in shorts with no oxygen tank is on the list.
That for me was like, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So ladies, let's get into what exactly is breathwork. I think for folks who are listening, they might not have a lot of information about breathwork. I think it's becoming incredibly popular, especially over the last year. Yeah. I've seen a lot of people are now doing this practice. I'm now doing it every single day, and it is the best thing that has entered my life. And so I'm incredibly grateful for breathwork. So maybe we could talk a little bit about breathwork and some of the types of breathwork that are introduced in the Wim Hof Method. I've been using the app. So maybe you can just explain to people, what does it mean to take a breath in and breath out and that, all that.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Because of course, normally we just like breathe unconsciously, but breath work is of course something that you do consciously. And you need to pay a little bit more attention so that in the long run, you can breathe as well a bit better. So the Wim Hof Method breathing, we have several types, but for the ease, I will discuss the basic breathing, because that's what we teach as well if people are new to the method. And it is how it looks like. It's actually a very simple technique, and you need to do it consciously. But this technique has some tremendous effects on our physical and emotional being. And how it looks like, you take 30 to 40 deep breaths, so to the belly, chest, and you let it go. And after the 30, 40 breaths, you just let it go until you have just like 20% of air, just you release it, and then you stop breathing. And then you come in a retention time. So you don't breathe during an amount of time until your body will say you breathe again. You need to breathe. You take one deep breath, hold it for 15 seconds, and then you let it go. And you repeat this 3 to 4 rounds if you're new to it. So what happens actually in the body is that at one hand, you're deep breathing. So it feels a little bit as an exercise. You know, when you're running, you breathe deeper. So that happens on your yoga mat. And then in the retention time, you stop with breathing. And what happens is, because you exhaled a lot of coal dioxide, that's CO2, from the body, that's a molecule that you need next to oxygen. But because you breathe that out, you expelled a lot of CO2, your body will not get the signal so fast to breathe again, because your breath, the way your body reacts is, if the CO2 is high enough, your body says, breathe. It's a signal. And in that retention time, in that resting phase, you enter actually a very calming phase. So at one moment, you breathe very active. It's like you're sprinting. And then the other moment, you're sitting down after a sprint. And after a sprint, you feel very relaxed, right? So that happens as well with the breath. You feel very relaxed on your yoga mat. And after 3-4 rounds, you will feel definitely a difference in your state of being. And you feel calmer, like way more calmer. You're more in tune, connected with your body. And you as well you're connecting with your subconscious. So normally you think in a certain way, but through breath work, that's a way of thinking, your perspectives change because you change your state of being, your state of mind. And it's actually a very powerful change, what you can do for your body, for your mind in a very short time. So that's actually, the Wim Hof Method breathing. And it's only 20 minutes, but in those 20 minutes, you will enter a journey for sure.
Amazing. And you both do this daily. Did you start to do breath work since Wim introduced it, or was it something that, I guess I have to ask, did you resist it? Because a lot of people don't want to do what their parents are doing for a long time until they realize, actually, my parent is a genius.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was not considered a genius. In the beginning, it was more, of course, I loved my father because we always played outside, even though it was cold. So that was one aspect that I absolutely loved. And then later on, actually, when I was 11, I began taking cold showers, just also because I felt good, but I was running a lot. So it was more for my endurance and also to recover faster. I ran every day. And I loved the info that I got from Wim, that it makes your skin tighter. Well, if you're 11, you're like a young girl, you're thinking about all those little things that, oh, really? Well, I'm going to do it. So that was really the reason that I began doing the cold showers. And only when I think it has been about 10 years ago, actually, I was introduced to the breathing technique, the basic of Wim. And that was when I had a huge hangover. So it was, I had a huge hangover, and I was partying a lot, was a student, I was also studying a lot, but it was one morning that I had my father that was visiting, and I just was destroyed. I couldn't do anything anymore, just like you have with a regular hangover. And we was like, hey, sit with me. Let's do this 3 rounds of breathing. We went through it, and sitting and just doing the breathing, 3 good rounds. And then afterwards, I couldn't believe it. I looked at my father with big eyes, and I shouted out, oh my God, this shit works. This shit really works. So that was really the start for me. Since then, I began to do it a lot with my hangovers. No, I'm just kidding. But whenever I felt iffy, or whenever I had a moment of a little bit of a reduced emotional state, I used it. I implemented it in my life. And ever since then, it has been part of my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah, for me, it's the same actually with Laura. Like the cold showers were, of course, introduced very, very early. And I did it as well for other reasons, to tighten up the skin. So I ended up the cold shower. So for that, I didn't have to do anything. But the breathing, like, as I explained before, it was a bit strange to see my father doing these breathing exercises every day. So I was looking at him and I thought, like, okay, what are you doing? But he was never forcing it. So we never did it. And my father is enthusiastic. So he would say, like, yeah, let's play, or let's do this, let's do that. But he never did it with those techniques. And only when I was 25, so that's 10 years ago, I had a job interview. And my father was just explaining, like, like they're paying more attention to these breathing exercises, and as well right now more science get involved. And I have a scientific background, so that's like opened actually my interest, that sparked my interest more. So I had a job interview, and I thought, and I remembered that conversation which I had with my father, and I had some time. So I thought, like, I have some time, I feel a bit anxious. Let's try it. Let's just give it a try. So I did 3 rounds, not even very intense, but 3 rounds, 30 to 40 breaths. And after that, I felt so calm, like so relaxed and so connected with the body and just being there. And instead of feeling anxious, it turned around 180%. And I felt in the mood to do the job interview.
Wow.
So that was for me the first time that I thought like, wow, this can change your state 100%, like directly in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
it was
it's
crazy.
unbelievable what kind of physiologically speaking, things change in your body. I mean, they measured the adrenaline levels of people with the Radboud study doing the breathing exercises. And they saw that there was more adrenaline spiking up than people that were about to do a bungee jump. So that is how radically, and that is when they are laying down on a yoga mat. So it's unbelievable what kind of tool you have to really radically change the chemistry in your body. And that is what happens with the breathing. It's
But that's interesting because actually I felt like for adrenaline can give you like as well a fear response. I'm just thinking this right now, but as well like a very enthusiastic response, and it depends on how you perceive it. So like actually for me, like from being in that anxious state to a state of energy and wanting to do the interview, so it tells me that like the adrenaline was rushing through my body, but something happened in my body as well that I was enthusiastic. So, and I think that it has to do as well with actually the vagus nerve that is that they say it connects the vagus nerve. It gets activated by deep breathing. So at one hand, actually, you have like these stress hormones rushing through your body. And at the other hand, you activated the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is actually the nerve that is the function is that it activates the parasympathetic system. So it gives you all the energy and all the motivation and the calmness to face the world.
Amazing.
That's actually a good one. Yeah.
And you guys spoke about cold showers before, and I want to highlight that because we've primarily spoken about breath work, but the Wim Hof Method includes not just breath work, but also cold showers. And you've also created the Icewomen Community, which sounds fabulous. I want to join that community.
Yeah, you can.
We'll put you in a group.
I love it. I'm Middle Eastern, so I get very, very cold. My ancestors
You have to train.
Yeah. My ancestors are from, lived in very warm climates, but I have to train for sure. And I was wondering if you could just tell me like what are cold showers, first of all? How does it work? How long does it take for it to work?
Yeah.
And when do you do it?
Yeah. So like actually we always say gradual exposure to cold because your body needs to adapt. That is one of the most important things. You are not going to the gym, for example, and as well like already start with 100 kilos of weight. I don't know how 100 kilos is in Libra, but it's a lot. It's a lot. You start with a small amount, so gradual exposure to cold. So you can start with 15 seconds, then 20 seconds the next day, then 25, 30, but always listen to your body. It tells you something. But the idea behind cold exposure is that you find your rest in a stressful situation. So what you can have with cold exposure, especially the start, there is where you will find yourself deep breathing. If you're an uncontrolled breathing, if you're not prepared. So prepare yourself. Like that's one of the most important thing is to prepare yourself before going into a cold shower. And the best thing is actually doing it in the morning. I always do it in the morning. Why? Because either way, I shower. I have a warm shower, a hot shower, and then I finish it with a cold one. So you can just do 2 in 1, and you build it up. So that is one of the most important things. The shower, I think, in San Francisco will be cold enough to have like as well the benefits of it. So like, for example, noradrenaline, that's a happy hormone, already gets activated with 17, 18 degrees. Yeah, this is Celsius. I would have to look it up with the Fahrenheit. But that's in San Francisco, you have like this cold month. It's normally 12 degrees Celsius, the showers. So you will get a lot of benefits of it already. If you, of course, live in countries in South America, Colombia, well, yeah, the showers are a bit warmer, but they are still effective in that sense. But so two things, it's like, gradual cold exposure. Try to do it in the morning. That's and the third thing is actually as well, listen to your body and go to the breath to control your body and mind.
Yeah, I think if I talk about cold showers, it's very important that you make it as comfortable for yourself when you're starting with cold showers. So as Isa already said, just do your regular warm showers and just finish it off by turning the knob to cold the last 15 seconds. And then you build it up, rinsing cold water from the neck down or from your feet, beginning with the feet. You could also do that. But it is a complete mind and body exercise, because you do have to turn a knob in your head as well to make sure that you calm down in that cold water. That's the best what you can do. I absolutely love it because it's a kind of a stressful situation every day again. Personally, I love cold showers, but I love them afterwards. A lot of times when I'm a little bit iffy, I'm a little bit moody or whatever what it is, I don't want to take the cold shower. But it's exactly that moment that you have to take the cold shower, because it trains yourself to be in control of what you are going to do. And once you have done the cold shower afterwards, you just feel amazing, because you're training actually all those blood veins that you have rushing through your whole system, and which is an intricate system. It's unbelievably intricate, and there's 6 liters of blood rushing through 125 kilometers of blood vessels throughout your whole system, and they carry your oxygen, they carry your vital nutrients, your CO2, but also they transport all of your waste out of your system. So when you take those cold showers, actually what it does is that your blood flow goes higher, your heart rate goes down, you're detoxing at the same time because your pH levels goes up. So, and it's at the same time an amazing energy booster and a happy hormone booster. So it is a complete package, the way I see it, of training your inner physiology. At the same time, you're training your mind by really taking charge and doing that little stressful thing in the morning, for example. But I sometimes also do cold showers when I exercise. So I like to run long run. I have a lot of long runs, and afterwards I love to take cold showers. Or I do a long run and dip in the cold when it's freezing temperatures, and then run again, which I also love. But it's a complete mind and body exercise. It's also the reason why, for example, all of those tech moguls in Silicon Valley, they are taking cold showers, or they are cold dipping or doing an ice bath. Why? Because it's stressful. Why? Because you don't want to do it. And it's exactly the reason why it's such a great exercise for the mind. And as I just elaborated, also for the body.
Amazing. Yeah. It's interesting. I think it takes a lot of getting used to, but I have experienced.
It never gets used to.
Yeah. It's always a jolt. I've always been, pleasantly surprised at how much better I feel after I take a cold shower. And I've just been gradually doing it. Some days it's 10 seconds, other days it's a minute. And it's a really powerful exercise. And I wanted to also ask you ladies, how has the pandemic impacted the world of breathwork and the Wim Hof Method. How are you guys receiving feedback, or are there trends?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the pandemic really forced people to go pretty much, be closed in their homes, not have a lot of social contact, and be busy with whatever is online, but also the ideas of people. So what I really saw is that people are turning more inwards. They have to. So you have two choices: or you go crazy, or you turn inwards. I really see it in that way. And a lot of people, they are turning inwards, and they use the methods such as the Wim Hof Method, breathwork, and also, for example, cold exposure. This winter, I never saw so many people dipping in Holland.
There was hardly any space for us.
There was not hardly any space for us. And normally we are the only ones that dip in those places. And now everybody's dipping. I went dipping with Wim, and we were looking at each other like, what the heck is this? What is going on? So it has really taken, there's a lot of interest, and it has deepened, and it has really reached the mainstream. This is what I feel. I have the feeling that the method now, if I talk about the method, the breathing, the cold exposure, there's not the person that is dipping that doesn't know the breathing exercises, for example. And there's not a person now, almost no person that I know, that I meet, that they don't know the Wim Hof Method. So it's unbelievable what kind of change there is in how people know about it. So I have the feeling, this is my feeling, that it is being carried now and supported now bottom up. It's really a bottom up.
And I think as well, like what we realized because of this pandemic is that how important it is to have a very good immune system. The immune system, like we are actually almost fighting a battle because we are not sure of the workings of our immune system. This fighting with something that's a virus that can attack, that's dangerous because it attacks our immune system. What we showed with the Wim Hof Method is that it actually can strengthen the immune system. And it was being shown as well by a very good scientific paper. So 1 and 1 is 2, actually. So like what can in the world, at one hand, you had all these regulations to keep up the virus, to not spread it, which was, some were very good. But people were as well looking, what can I do for my own immune system, for my own health? And if you type immune system, is of course like the Wim Hof Method will pop up, because it has been shown for the first time as well in history that you can control the autonomic nervous system and you can control your immune system. So by these techniques, you have a powerful weapon against things that don't belong in your body. So I think that was as well one of the rational reasons why people took this on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is spot on.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. And finally, what do you want to tell our listeners about their health and wellness? What's sort of your main takeaway? Mm-hmm. If you could leave them with one thing, what would that be?
I like that. That's difficult. What I would say is that you have much more control and a much bigger say in your own health. So you are your own body, you are your own mind, you are your own person. So make sure that you tune in to what it is, what you're feeling, what feels good to you. So I think it is very important to also take responsibility of your own health in your own hands as far as you can do it. Because we were born, this is really how I see it, we were born to have a system that is supporting us, our own health, and that is it has a lot of self-healing capacities, but you have to be good to yourself in that and also trust your system. So that is my message.
For me, like whatever you do, try to move. Keep on moving. Your body needs to move. And it's like walking, exercising, breathing, but moving as well in the head, reading. Like try to keep that moving inspired, moving on, because that's eventually, your system needs this, movements. That's like one of the most important things for me that I would advise to give for a good health, because it's like the moving will, whenever your spiral goes down, by moving, it can go up again. And it keeps you inspired. It keeps you healthy.
What I also think is very important is don't give in to fear too much, because the mind is very much connected to the body. And in these times that a lot of time fear can be a very big part of your thinking. Make sure that you put a lot of love in there and a lot of trust in the world and in yourself, because that will affect how you think, connect, but also are in tune with your body. So that is, I think, is also very important.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, ladies. Very powerful message, one that really resonates with me as well. So thank you. And are there any resources that you can point folks to so that they can learn more about the Wim Hof Method and the Icewomen Community? Where can
For sure. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We have a fantastic free mini course for everybody to practice the Wim Hof Method. With that, you can already do all the basics and just practice it yourself further. It's on wimhofmethod.com, and can be found under courses. We also have a beautiful tutorial of breathing exercises guided by Wim, which can be found on the YouTube channel, the official YouTube channel, Icewomen Hof. And I love the breathing bubble, and especially for beginners, please watch that one and make a beautiful journey doing the breathing exercises, I would say. We also have our app. It's called the Wim Hof Method app. Great app, really. We get amazing responses, and it has been spreading like wildfire, really, because it's such a handy app to take with you.
Yeah, and all the resources, Laura, just like put on the table, so that's good. And then the Icewoman is on, Instagram, you always can find it. So
yeah,
it's
Instagram, Icewomen Community.
Icewomen Community.
We love it. It's growing. And
we have like actually several groups around the world as well, like in Turkey, in New England, who has their own groups and started their own woman group as well.
Yeah, and we do encourage that. So
yes,
any woman that feels, I want to build a community, I want to start one, just go ahead. And we would love to hear from you as well. It's a nonprofit, so everybody can do it. We just love to promote it. We love to see women also taking charge and going into the cold weather, but the beautiful cold dippings in nature, connecting with themselves, connecting with others at the same time. And it's just a beautiful thing that we love. Also, baby, you could always follow us as well. Laura Hof Alchemy, that's me, and Isabelle Hof on Instagram. Any questions, I'm always happy to answer that. And I think Isa as well.
Of course.
I don't want to say too much.
Amazing.
So absolutely, you can always send us a message.
For sure, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, ladies, thank you so much for your time. I know it's late right now in Amsterdam, so I really appreciate you joining this call and telling our audience all about the Wim Hof Method and the benefits of cold showers and the benefits of breathwork. This practice really has changed my life and has changed the life of so many people. So check it out if you're feeling anxiety, if you can't sleep at night, or if you don't know what else to do, just try this methodology. I have seen incredible results. So thank you so much. And for our audience, thanks for joining and for listening. In this episode, we learned about the power of breath and cold showers with Laura and Isabelle Hof. And send us a note and tell us what you learned about this episode and tag us. We'd love to hear from you. You can tune in to Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness and spirituality. Thanks again.